Welcome back. So we're going to have a discussion now. And again, there's a couple questions up on the Slido, which I'm looking over at here to my left. So forgive me if I peek over there. But by all means, please ask your questions. But like I said, I have a couple there that I see, as well as about 8 right here. So I'll get into the ones that I can within the limited amount of time. But today's focus is really for me around people analytics careers, because many people are out of work. Even HR professionals who are in role realize that all this data has been coming at them, and they have to get better at analyzing and in turn communicating that data. So I want to answer some of these basic questions from my perspective. And I want to be very clear that as I share these responses, they're very much a perspective, and I don't want to come across like this is the way, and I won't keep qualifying my responses in that way. But I just want to be very clear that the way we define people analytics is unique in many organizations. Thus, the means in which we develop our careers in turn can and should be unique. So let me take this first question. How do I develop my career in people analytics? That's actually a perfect example. So you can, as a aspiring people analytics professional, or even an existing one, you're coming in to it from a certain point of view. For example, if you have an engineering background, a software development background, you're likely going to come in from a data-centric approach, or even a stats background. So you're going to be thinking, I want data. And this is where I came from. My background is in economics. So if there is a business problem or question that needed to be answered, I went out and just looked for data. And some of the constraints that I had was my ability to utilize the tool at my disposal. At the time, it was SPSS. I can go back further, but I won't go into a rabbit hole there. But primarily, it was statistical software that I probably knew generously 10% of its ability, but I knew a variety of research methods I could employ to solve that business problem. So years ago, I wrote an article around one of the things organizations needed to do, the 10 things, that is, 10 steps that they needed to do to be successful at people analytics. And by and large, I stand by it. And one of them was analytical diversity. In other words, we have to understand the array of analytical techniques that we can employ to solve a certain problem. And that requires an education. That requires knowledge of what those analytical techniques are, and you have to go practice using them. So if you're a data scientist, if you're coming in with a data-centric approach, having a degree in data science, stats, or something of that IO psychology, makes perfect sense. That being said, people analytics is evolving, and there's an article that I wrote, and again, I don't want to sound pretentious where I say, oh, there's an article here, there's an article here that I wrote. I just want to let you know that I thought about these things, and if they serve as valuable references, I'll make sure that we put those in the comments afterwards, and that you can learn what they are. But the effective notion is this, is that we have 3 pillars of people analytics, in my view. We have research analysis, which is mostly the IO psychologists in the world. We have the platform, so data staging and visualization. So those are the technologists. And then we have the solutions, the AI-based tools now. And that is really around the data scientists, software developers who are trying to scale these analytical tools. The middle one has really gained a lot of prominence in the midst of COVID-19. The first one, the research isn't going away. These things, just to be clear, it's an and. And I don't believe you, as an aspiring people analytics professional, even an existing one, should be an expert at all of these, or conversely, just stay limited to one of these. You can and arguably should be aware of the range of people analytics professionals. However, we need to be coming in and be really, really good at problem solving in one of these dimensions. And let me put a finer point on it. The IO psychologists are going to do what I would call event-based research, and Justin can add his ideas on that when we talk in the next half hour. If you're staging data, if you're a data architect, if you're building dashboards, visualizing data, disseminating that, user rights and all that stuff, you're firmly in that middle bucket of data staging and visualization. And if you're building these scalable tools, then you're definitely in that last bucket where you're developing software that's going to be consumed throughout the organization, and that might provide nudges and other techniques like that. So in the end, how do you do that? Well, that's open to debate. You can have a multi-year degree in these fields. You can go and do some just-in-time learning. You can do in the middle what Josh Burson has recently talked about in his academies, where you get cohorts together and you learn with each other as well as with a subject matter expert. And I've done something similar over the years, which seems to work very well. It's what I call an education consulting hybrid. So without overly advocating for any one approach, I would say that it's an and over time that you stay in curiosity. You're going to have to constantly refresh your knowledge of the analytical techniques as well as the tools that are out there. When I first started in this domain, it became very evident that we had to learn rapidly over time. You don't learn people analytics, check the box, and move on. It is certainly a continuous learning. Even over the last several years, the emergence of talent market analytics, much of the data that we're now consuming and presenting to leaders is external data that we brought in to put next to our people data. So you get the idea. And this goes into the other question that I see, and I'm going to spend just a couple minutes answering that, and then we'll move on, is where can our priorities be? Where should our priorities be? What I advocate strongly is asking the questions up front. So many people have taken this data-centric approach and just hoped it landed. We can't do that. We have to have the discussions first. Then we can prioritize the work that needs to be done. And if we do that, then our priorities are going to emerge. More to say on that. And actually, I'm going to touch on that in this next segment. So we'll see you shortly.